morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the CL Services podcast series. My name is Tim Griffin. I'm the Director of Marketing and Media here at CL Services. With me, I have three very special guests. First of all, we have Jeff Lance, President and CEO of CL Services.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the opportunity to be on here today.
Absolutely. And we have Mike Horvath, Executive Vice President and CMO of Revenova.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for allowing us to be here.
And last but not least, we have Jeff Parisi, Vice President of Sales at Revenova.
Thank you, Tim. Look forward to conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I kick things off, I did want to just talk about yourselves, introduce yourselves to the audience. Jeff, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. I'm Jeff Lance and founder of CL Services. I'm heavily involved in the company and looking at all of our technology and how we can always be making those improvements on technology.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. And Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, good morning, Tim. This is Mike Horvath. I'm CMO and co-founder of Revenova. Our company produces a CRM-powered TMS solution built exclusively on the Salesforce.com platform. We help companies like Jeff's enable their business processes, for digital freight matching and the much of digital engagement. So we'll talk a lot about that today, but that's our whole mission in life, is to really serve the 3PL brokerage market along with the carrier market in October and shippers as well, and really to help them work together to engage in moving their freight around the globe.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And Jeff, why don't you take us home? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Revenova.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So Jeff Parisi. I run sales here at Revenova. I've been in sales really my whole life, selling really emerging technology software. Started with client server, and then there was a phrase called software as a service, SaaS, which was kind of cutting edge back in the days. And then I was real early involved in selling cloud applications, which really changed the landscape of how companies purchased and used software. As Mike said, we're built probably on the best cloud application in the world, Salesforce. We'll talk probably a little bit more about it today, the benefits of that platform. But, my experience has always been, helping drive productivity with our customers through great technical platforms.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. So as I mentioned, today we are here to talk about digital freight and how to begin your digital freight journey. So I'm just going to kick us off with a question to get things started. So let's take it from the top. What is a digital freight transformation and what is the purpose of it?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I think that's a broad term, but the way we see, digital freight transformation is where customers engage, via digital technologies, to price freight, to book freight, and for the broker side of the business is to automate as much of the happy path freight as possible. And so what we see and what we are endeavoring to do constantly is to provide the tools and the technologies for our customers, companies like CL Services, to provide these types of engagement capabilities for your customers. So your customers can see their freight in real time, can book freight online, you can cover freight automatically, and then use your service personnel to handle the exception cases and the issues that ultimately always pop up when you're moving freight, when you've got bad weather or bad traffic or breakdowns or all the other things that could go sideways, but where you can do automation as much as possible.
Thanks, Mike. So like you said, it does sound like a pretty broad term. So with that being said, I'll turn this one to Jeff Lance. As someone who's gone through the digital freight transformation, how do you even begin this transformation? Where does it all start?
Well, I think by selecting good partners like Revenova. I think, I see a lot of our competitors out there in the industry, and I see a lot of other technology companies out there in the industry, and they are either kind of in what I would call business as usual mode or stagnant, and a lot of them are looking to automate as much as possible. Um, for us, this process began really when we started looking around for new software, and we found Revenova, and it was like that was what we wanted to be part of our future, because we knew that the transformation was coming, because we saw people already beginning that transformation, some of the big ones like Convoy. But even today, I think that, there are some glitches with some of those out there. But I think that this transformation is a process that is worked on over time, and having partners that are willing to innovate with you and take all of our ideas, combine our ideas together, and get this moving forward as to the automation process, like Mike had mentioned, because there's a lot of great tools out there that can be accompany us in this process as we move forward.
So, Mike and Jeff, as people who are not only huge proponents of this technology, but I mean, developers of it, would you like to add anything to what Jeff just said?
I'd like to, expand on that somewhat. I think what happened early in the industry was that there was a lot of buzz around, well, brokers are no longer going to exist. The Uber Freights of the world were going to basically take over the entire industry, and that shippers would book directly with carriers and there'd be no intermediary in that process. I liken that to what we heard way back in the 1970s and 80s as the paperless office. It sounds good in theory. It doesn't work in practice, because I think there's a value added service footprint that brokerages add for their customers, the relationships that you maintain with your carrier base, the service that you provide, the ability to react quickly, the expertise that you bring for transportation. Some of those things simply cannot just be automated into I just have a transaction and I'd like to find any carrier that's available. There's ways that brokers provide services that I don't believe can ever be automated. But I do believe, as I said earlier, that there's a lot of parts of the transactions that can be automated and provide, much more of a digital footprint for documentation and transactions and visibility. But I don't believe the broker is ever going to be out of the equation. You're always going to be providing services and relationships that shippers just can't or don't want to actually try to execute on.
All three of you have touched on customer expectations and customer service. And you see a lot of these 3PLs or, even logistics, transportation companies in general that kind of seem like they're stuck on second base. They're not really taking that step to go into the digital freight transformation. So that kind of begs the question, and I'll direct this one to Mr. Parisi. How big of an investment is the digital freight transformation?
Yeah, I think the old days of the biggest brokers or biggest companies having a superior technical advantage because they had unlimited IT resources and budgets to produce these custom solutions are over. I think with cloud applications now, the 10-person brokerage, the 1,000-person brokerage can use the same tools, have access to the same information. So costs have come down significantly. And has allowed really, any broker of any size to run, a brokerage that only the big guys could have enjoyed 5 years ago. So it really is, about managing your people. And as Mike said, the three-legged stool, it's how, how do you process that change? It is a change in mentality from a lot of manual processes to automation, and that's really the big challenge. It's not really financial anymore. It's more, management issues.
Thanks, Jeff. It really does seem like the options are pretty much endless when it comes to digital freight technology. It's just kind of a matter of how the company wants to approach the customer from a strategic standpoint. So I guess for my next question, I want to take a step back for a second and just kind of reflect on how far this technology's come in the last 30 or 40 years. So I will direct this question to all three of you, but Mr. Lance, why don't you kick us off here? How have you seen digital freight evolve in that time span?
Well, we've gone, Mike touched on it earlier, somewhat paperless because our rate confirmations are all digital. We don't have thermal fax machines anymore. Very rarely do we ever even send a fax. So everything has gone from being what I would call a manual process on the billing side to the load booking process. The whole process has evolved over the years to really being very automated. And I think that it's going to continue to evolve and get better. Now, can it get more automated? I don't know how much more automated it will get. That would be a good question for these guys, but I do know that it will continue to get smarter. The bills of lading that come in, all of the OCR reading that takes place on the billing processes, all of the load confirmations that come in from customers that are still coming in via fax that are getting read into the system, or some of that stuff will continue to get smarter. But I think the question for these guys is how much more can it evolve, because these guys are more of the experts on those, and we follow really kind of their lead on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It's a really interesting industry because I think you could probably argue that the first kind of digital freight capability was EDI way back, and EDI transactions today are still very prevalent. And so I think one of the things that you have as a technology vendor is you have to really embrace kind of all the digital pathways that are out there that your customers use, your carrier partners use. So that's EDI, that's email, that's APIs. Of course, having a cloud computing platform versus an on-prem platform gives you a lot of extensibility that you didn't have, early on, where you had to basically provision your own servers and all your connectivity. But you can really rely upon, cloud platforms now to take a lot of the work off your plate and really focus on the business functionality that you're trying to deliver. And so that's, where we're focusing. But I agree, the digital transformation of documentation. And I think where the industry is going is really leveraging more of artificial intelligence to do the things you described, Jeff, which is to process documents by reading the documents and processing them more intelligently versus just simply electronic delivery. So that'll help really streamline and reduce manual processing of even electronic documents that are transmitted via email. There'll be a continued movement towards APIs. There was a lot of talk about blockchain in our industry a couple of years back. It's kind of fallen off because it really, some of the blockchain implementations, I think the early interpretation of blockchain is there was just one blockchain in the cloud and everybody would be able to leverage one. And it turns out, like APIs, it's a vendor's implementation of blockchain solutions. And so its adoption, I think, has slowed a bit because it's more complicated than it early they initially was kind of projected to be. But all those things are out there, and we keep our eye on all of those things to see how we can basically provide solutions that are more streamlined, more cost effective, eliminate manual processes that are routine tasks. And I think that's where the automation and we call digital freight transformation is going. I described it earlier, the happy path freight. Can you basically have a customer's order come in some automated fashion, whether they enter it into your portal, whether they send it from their ERP system directly into your TMS, and then the system can smartly find the right carrier for it, engage that carrier, book the carrier, track the carrier, and resolve payments with the carrier as in an automated fashion as possible, and humans jump in for the exception handling.
Yeah, and also, Mike, if you look at it from a brokerage, what makes a great broker? So I respond to my customers, I provide them great visibility and great service, but also the carriers, right? It's just as important to service your carriers. So can I pay them quickly? Am I easy to work with? So doing that, making it easy to submit your documents. Maybe if they prefer getting paid electronically, pay them right away electronically. The time value of the money, DSO, etc. Is all profit for a carrier. So if you're a broker and you make it easy for carriers to work with you and get paid quicker, they're going to be more apt to take your call and put their trucks on your loads versus another broker.
And I think that's spot on. Our whole mantra is, CRM powered transportation management, CRM meaning, customer relationship management. And you really, as a broker, have two sets of customers. Your shippers are your customers, but really your carriers are your customers too. You're selling them freight and you're selling the relationship that you have that you can extend your carriers, as Jeff mentioned. And so I think at the end of the day, people are still people and they rely on those relationships. They do business with people that they like, but also they like, having these, as you mentioned, Jeff, kind of the personalized touch points, whether it's automated or, human to human contact. And most of the time it's a combination of things depending on the situations. But I do believe that that's how people interact, and that's, the recipe for success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of those scenarios where the technology will always be there to support people in their day-to-day tasks, but when it's really all said and done, it comes down to that human interaction. I mean, like you said, people want to do business with people that they like.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of look at it as a three-legged stool. It's having the right people, the right processes, and the right technology platform. And you need all three. Stool falls down if you don't have all three.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Going back to the, our digital journey, I guess, part of it was when we started looking at Revenova, and what I saw in them was being able to really kind of, without having to spend millions of dollars to build our own software, I saw the opportunity to really kind of create, I guess, I don't know if ERP system would be the right term to use, but, the problem that I saw that we had before Revenova was we were using so many different softwares outside of Revenova. Now all this stuff is connected internally within them, and we can utilize all this different software in addition to the platform, the main platform that they're built on, which is the Force.com platform, which is extremely powerful. And, these guys have built a tremendous product that really helps our people to stay engaged, stay focused on what they're doing, their job. And more than anything else, it helps to make their job easier. I think that, as software gets developed and all this stuff, we live in a very high stress industry. And if we can make everything easier for our people, then, they're happier. They have a better day at work.
Definitely, and it's great that you mentioned that because it actually does lead into my next question, and I will preface this one. It's primarily for Jeff, but I'd also love to hear what our friends at Revenova have to say. But at what point should companies begin considering transitioning to the more automated version of digital freight? Are we already at that point in time where all companies should be invested in this, or is this kind of more of a case-by-case basis?
I would say if you haven't started looking at it, you're sleeping. That would be my opinion on it. But it is costly. So I think that, it's an investment. It's an investment not only for the company, but it's an investment for the customers. It's an investment for our carrier vendor partners. It's an investment for our people. To really facilitate everything for us, to make our days run smoother.
Yeah, I would agree. The Amazon effect on the commercial freight market. When consumers started ordering and they could place their orders online, see where their freight is, get all the ETAs and things on their mobile phones. I think that really started to put a different kind of standard out there for the commercial space. And so I think companies that are not doing this today are going to be are way behind today, and will be further behind, if not completely out of the game, if they're not taking advantage of the ability to drive this kind of digital engagement footprint for their customers and carrier partners. Because the bar is much higher now than it's ever been, and it's going to continue to go that direction.
It's really being driven so that, from the broker standpoint, it's being driven from your customers and carriers. That expectation. So Mike touched on a little bit the Amazon effect. So customers have expectations now of their brokers' visibility, and then carriers have expectations on, getting paid quick, handling issues, etc. So, yeah, brokers that they've all thought about it. Some that have been successful and are growing and are opening offices, etc., are embracing it and supporting both their customers and carriers. Through better technology, and are more successful.
With all this being said, we spoke about the Amazon effect, the technology, how it's grown over the years. Are there any trends you guys believe that we can see in the next, 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, the biggest trend, I think, is the use of AI right now, and basically having the system do the things that people can do in this artificial intelligence platform. Where we see the biggest use cases of that are in document processing, of course, is probably the one that's got the most legs, but also in things like predicting pricing in the future, looking at ETAs based on more events where the artificial intelligence can look at weather and traffic patterns in the path of the route the driver is taking and be proactively alerting back to the brokerage or back directly to the customer, shipper, consignees, information about, where their freight is and when it might arrive. So I think the artificial intelligence platforms have come a long way, and we're seeing some pretty good uses of that in digesting documents and in doing some of these other things that can help the brokerage maintain its competitive edge.
I would agree with all that.
Yeah.
It's just going to keep getting smarter. No, I think that, as the system continues to get smarter, I think that, it allows for your people to do more. Obviously, people are getting replaced out there with automation. And I think that this is no secret to the automation that's here, that it's going to continue to allow us to grow as a business without having to hire a huge amount of headcount to accommodate that. And I think that, so you're really trading one investment for another. We'll always need people, because we'll always need those relationships, but the investment in the technology is going to automate a lot of that.
Is there any specific technology or any processes that you need to have in place before you even dip your toes in digital freight?
Yeah, I would say not necessarily. I think, what digital freight transformation has done for the industry is taking what you've traditionally done with people or paper, and you're moving it in a different way. You're automating processes, you're electronically rendering documents and delivering them electronically, you're receiving orders electronically. But that process is, has been the process you've been dealing with since day one. It just was in a much more manual, less efficient way that maybe took more time to consume. And so it's basically a way to take what you're already doing and to optimize it in ways where, as Jeff mentioned in his last comment, you may not need as much headcount to grow your business than you would have traditionally, because the automation is handling a lot of routine tasks that you would have traditionally done with people, where you don't need to, have them just enter orders. Orders are coming in automatically. You don't need people to convey status, because status is now available online in real time for your customers, and they can go to their mobile phones or look at their emails or click on a link and be in a portal and see everything that they need to see, versus calling in or expecting a phone call. So things like that. So I think every company is ready for digital transformation. Most people, want to be in that footprint today. And the challenge is always just, how do you go from where you're at to where you want to be? the transformation. And that's where companies like us come into play, where we can help because of the technology solutions that we have and the services we provide to help companies, move from one way of doing business to a new way of doing business.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it all does work hand in hand. You have to have that balance. So, as a business, how do you continue to maintain the balance of human expertise and technology automation kind of working together to take your business to the next level?
I think Jeff Lance hit it early on, which is you kind of need to have a solution that can provide the type of engagement your customers want to have. And so it's not forcing things on people, it's making options available to them, and they kind of pick the model that works best for them. Getting back to that, people do business with people and the way they want to work. And so I love the idea, and Jeff hit it perfectly, which is we provide the options, you deploy them to the customers in the way they see fit. That's best for them. And that's the best way to manage that relationship, in my view. And the same goes to the carrier side of the relationship piece. How does the carrier want to work with you? That's most comfortable for them. If you can engage them that way, that's a great relationship. You can do the same on your customers, and just having all the tools available is what makes it work.
I think being able to customize that solution for each customer, each carrier individually is the key.
And also a couple of things I want to talk about too is from a customer standpoint, they just want their load shipped successfully. A broker, understanding instantly real-time spot rates, understanding in real time where their maybe premier carriers have trucks. The ability to know all that instantly, I think, helps them make faster, better, more profitable decisions. So when we talk about, helping productivity, it's about giving them information instantly at their fingertips so they can make better, faster decisions. And then also the flip side, there's some, like Micah's Horvath has talked about, the happy path, the Chicago to Dallas lane that we always do, and we have a rate with a carrier. Everything's already done. We can automate that path. So I think technology is getting to the point where we can really integrate a lot of data sources in there to help people make much better, quicker, more profitable decisions.
Yeah, that speed is important, and that's not something really didn't talk about a whole lot, but the speed of technology is really, really critical. Being able to respond fast.
And at the rate technology is growing, there's just endless possibilities, it seems, nowadays. So I guess I'll direct this one to our team at Revenova, and Jeff, you can tag on the end as well. Where can we all learn more about this? Where is this wealth of information where we can learn more about this technology and what all the possibilities are?
Sure. Well, you can always contact us about what we're doing, www.revenova.com. But I would say that probably the places to learn about the industry in general and technology solutions are through the trade associations, FreightWaves, as well as TIA. Have a very good, constant beat of information that's flowing back out on what vendors are up to and what companies like CL might be doing, and they feature different businesses and what they've deployed. There are lots of solutions out there, and those are two primary resources that I think people can go look at, and just that, of course, you can always Google and come back with lots of research on things that you're interested in. But those are the things that I think would be where people could go and get a lot of information quickly.
Can you tell me more about this Google, Mike?
Yeah, it's the one field application that's got about $100 billion valuation. And of course, Jeff has always been great, as he mentioned earlier. Hey, heard about this new vendor. What do you guys think? Or have you talked to them? So we learn a lot from our customers, as they're looking in the industry, and they pass that information along to us, and and we look at it together to see if it makes technical and business sense to roll into our product as an integration partner. So it's definitely those are the things that I think make a lot of sense to do if you're interested in looking at the technology and what's available out there for our industry.
And Jeff, as a owner, where do you go for more information on this?
Google. Yeah, Google is probably, a lot of the trade shows. The TIA is a great trade show to go to, and they actually do a special technology trade show. Technovations, I think it's called. So that's a great resource. And then, I'm, browsing websites and I get a lot of emails from a lot of different vendors also that come in asking us to look at technology. So a lot of that stuff is, comes to me, and so I look at it, and if it's of value, then we'll take a deeper look at it. But as far as if anybody's interested, I mean, our website is clservicesinc.com, and so we're looking to continue to help change the industry and make the industry better. And I think technology is part of it. So I think that anything that we can do to contribute to that, we're looking to do. So we're always available, and we have an IT team that they're willing to talk and share the experience too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate you guys taking time. I know you guys are really busy. Just taking time out of your schedules to meet with me and have this conversation about digital freight. Hopefully we helped a couple of our listeners along the way in their journey and made a difference here today. But thank you guys for joining me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. This was a great conversation, and thanks again.